The Journey of Sara, a tale of resilience. Sara was the kind of girl who preferred solitude. It wasn't that she didn't enjoy the company of others, but she found peace in the quiet moments where she could hear her own thoughts and breathe without the weight of expectations. Growing up in a small town, she often wandered alone through the fields near her home, the long stretches of grass and sky her only companions. It was in these moments she felt most at ease, free from the hustle of the world. Her parents often worried about her. "Why don't you go out with your friends more?" her mother would ask, her voice tinged with concern. "You spend too much time alone." Sara would smile, not bothering to explain that the time she spent alone wasn't lonely at all. She enjoyed her books, her music, and the simple pleasure of being. It was in these moments that she could dream. Her dreams were vast, filled with possibilities of places far beyond her small town. She wanted to travel, to see the world, to meet people from different walks of life. She dreamed of standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea, feeling the wind whip through her hair, or wandering through the crowded streets of a foreign city, hearing 100 different languages spoken around her. But Sara knew that dreams didn't come true just by thinking about them. She would have to work hard, save money, and take risks if she ever wanted to see the world beyond the fields she had grown up in. As soon as she finished school, Sara got a job at the local bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough. The quiet atmosphere suited her, and she loved being surrounded by books, each one offering an escape to a new world. She spent her days organizing the shelves, recommending books to the few customers who wandered in, and saving every penny she could. Months turned into years, and slowly, Sara's savings grew. She was patient, knowing that every small step was bringing her closer to her dream. She didn't need much to be happy, just enough to pack a bag and buy a plane ticket to somewhere new. One day, a traveler walked into the bookstore. He was tall, with sun-kissed skin and a backpack slung over his shoulder. He browsed the shelves for a while before coming to the counter with a book about distant lands. "Planning a trip?" Sara asked, her curiosity piqued. He smiled. "Always. I've been traveling for the past 2 years. This town is just one stop on the way." Sara's heart raced. She had never met anyone who actually lived the life she dreamed of. "What's it like?" she asked. "Traveling, I mean." The traveler leaned on the counter, his eyes lighting up. "It's everything you imagine it to be and more. It's beautiful and terrifying and exhausting and exhilarating. Every day is a new adventure, and every place you visit changes you in some way." Sara nodded, her mind spinning with possibilities. She asked him more questions: where he had been, how he afforded it, what his favorite places were. The traveler answered each one patiently, telling her stories of deserts and mountains, bustling cities and quiet villages. When he left the bookstore that day, Sara felt more determined than ever. She could do it. She could make her dream a reality. It took another year before she had enough saved up, but finally, the day came when she bought her first plane ticket. It was a one-way ticket to Spain, a country she had always wanted to visit. Her parents were hesitant, worried about her traveling alone, but Sara reassured them. "I'll be fine," she said, and she meant it. She had spent her whole life preparing for this. When the day of her departure arrived, Sara stood at the airport, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She had never been so far from home before, but she wasn't turning back now. She boarded the plane, found her seat, and watched as the town she had known her entire life disappeared beneath the clouds. Spain was everything she had imagined. The cities were vibrant, filled with music and laughter. The countryside was breathtaking, with rolling hills and ancient castles. Sara wandered through the streets, taking in the sights and sounds of a world so different from her own. She traveled from town to town, staying in hostels, meeting fellow travelers, and learning bits of the language. She visited museums, tasted new foods, and sat in cafes, watching the world go by. Every day was a new adventure, just as the traveler had said. But there were challenges too. There were moments when she felt homesick, when the unfamiliarity of it all overwhelmed her. There were times when she felt truly alone, despite being surrounded by people. But Sara had always been comfortable with solitude, and she knew how to find peace within herself. One evening, as the sun set over a small village, Sara sat on a hill, looking out at the landscape. She thought about how far she had come, not just in distance, but in who she was. The girl who had wandered the fields of her hometown was still there, but now she was braver, more confident, more open to the world. As she sat there, she realized something important. The journey wasn't just about seeing new places. It was about discovering new parts of herself. Every person she met, every challenge she faced, every beautiful view she witnessed had changed her in some way. She was no longer just the quiet girl from the small town. She was a traveler, an adventurer, a dreamer who had made her dreams come true. Sara stayed in Spain for several months before moving on to the next country, and then the next. Her journey continued, and with every step, she grew. She had learned that the world was vast and full of wonders, and that there was a place in it for her, even if she was walking the path alone. Years later, when Sara finally returned to her hometown, she was no longer the same girl who had left. She had stories to tell, memories to cherish, and a heart full of experiences that had shaped her. She had learned that being alone didn't mean being lonely, and that sometimes the greatest adventures were the ones you took with yourself. And so, Sara's journey continued. Because once you start exploring the world and yourself, you never really stop. This story highlights the inner strength and independence of Sara as she embarks on a journey of self-discovery and exploration. I hope you enjoyed it.